I'm going to give you 4 statements. Let me think what these images might convey to you. The Archduke Ferdinand has been shot today by Serbian assassins. The speaker in St. Petersburg cried for more and more blood and the Bolshevik crowd in front of him called to Lenin, the speaker in question, saying that they would deliver that blow. Then a former actor, got to the podium and gave a speech which had the American journalists enthralled, and then in a calculated or seemingly foolish joke, covered the microphone somewhat and said, "I've passed legislation which will outlaw the Soviet Union and we start bombing in 5 minutes." Towards another era, the 4th statement. Today, on September the 11th, the Twin Towers were destroyed. Each one of these statements, perhaps not the 3rd, are statements of horror to the world. Statements that shook the world. All 3, apart from the one about Ronald Reagan, which was obvious, about declaring the Soviet Union illegal and starting bombing, was all based on actual use of proxies. In my explanation about a detailed explanation about how the Soviet Union came into being, and how Marxism co-opted different strands of Russian and Zionist thought into creating it. It's a particular brand of nationalism, as I said in the other video on about Syria and Turkey, how Russia is obsessed with regaining the old Orthodox Christian idea of Byzantium or Constantinople as the heart, and how it used to be considered Moscow used to be considered the third Rome when it was Orthodox Christian. This is the same kind of subgenre of Russian nationalism, or Russian imperialism rather, I would say, as a manifest destiny has in the United States. Now, of course, the product of a certain view of Tsarist imperialism was, of course, the use of the Black Hand organisation which was a proxy. It then co-opted Serbian nationalists, although some people mistakenly call them anarchists, to kill Archduke Ferdinand, so that Russia and France could invade Austria and Germany and cause the First World War. Whether Britain got involved or not, it was already a world war at that point. And of course, to a certain extent, the Churchill and J.P. Morgan used Britain, and Earl Grey used Britain as a proxy to get for their own personal goals, which was to stay in office and get a truckload of money out of it. And this is probably the same in the Second World War. Those are great big areas to cover, and I want to rapidly move on to the modern era. Of course, Al Qaeda, as I said before, was a proxy of the Saudi and Bin Laden. It's the Saudis and the Bin Ladens, and they sort of shared influence. Although those two families are at each other's throats, as well as trying to wipe out Western influence within the Middle East, as far as the Bin Ladens are concerned, and the Saudis want imperial hegemony over the world with neo-feudalism. The Bin Ladens, of course, are the neo-feudalists themselves. Both those families are much more powerful than any than most of the sort of crime families are in the West. That's unmistakable. They did do 9/11, but Al Qaeda was used as a proxy, and Al Qaeda's proxy in turn, right, was to co-opt the entire Muslim and fundamentalists and the jihadist movement within it to the goal of the Saudi and Bin Laden crime families. Okay, and of course the emissary in that was Prince Bandar, who went between the Bushes and everything and probably told the Bushes quite a lot of lies to keep them on board and keep them in the dark. But of course the Bushes and Clintons are no angels either. But the use of proxies has a long history, you know. I would have liked to include a statement by Kim Jong-un and his son Kim Jong-il, because they were proxies. The guy was born in a Soviet camp in Siberia, and then moved into Korea. One of the things that I'd like to say to Russian viewers, right, if you don't understand that Marx wanted to get hold of a state via someone like Lenin, it didn't really matter whether it happened within Marx's lifetime, but he expected somebody like Lenin to arise, you know. There are many different machinations going on with banking families and training that went on with in the United States and other things like that, which I don't really want to get into. You can see the death of the Russians, but not the Russian state video, which explains that. But the primary goal was to get hold of a state from which to export revolution, but also to destroy the nation of Russia, right? And they were pretty successful at not only killing a lot of people outside to spread revolution, because they wanted the highest point of capitalism, which is of course a paradox if you want to get to from parasitical capitalism to a communal system. Completely crazy, yeah? But you can find that out about how they thought about doing that in the West versus Totalitarian meme series, and the guide to totalitarian corruption of terms and usage of terms. But they used North Korea, of course, and they tried with Vietnam, Vietnam, to take over the all of Southeast Asia, unsuccessfully, because of course of World War II, where the Japanese took over the entire area. Then after World War II, when the British defeated the Vietnamese in an insurgent warfare and let the French back in, and then the Americans got involved as well when the Vietnamese were trying to invade Cambodia, Laos, and Thailand itself. People might say, you know, oh, the Forgotten War of Korea. That, you know, but that was a perfect example. If there is a perfect example of the Mad Dog theory, it is North Korea. I originally got this idea for this series because of the way the Israelis acted towards Iran. But really, are the Israelis copying the North Koreans, or are the or is every power trying to be a proxy, or actually put itself up to be a proxy for somebody, for some larger power, for the payoff, or the sheer crazy hell of it sometimes? The North Koreans seem to.